Now to the U.S. West Stock Index futures ticked higher ahead of Friday's open as investors geared up for fresh gross domestic product figures. Around 5:35 a.m. Eastern Time, Dow futures rose 27 points, indicating a positive open of 48.93 points, while Nasdaq and S&P 500 futures indicated a relatively upbeat start to their respective sessions. Now, coming up on Friday, the advanced GDP reading for the second quarter is due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, which should offer investors some indications as to how the U.S. economy has been performing. Well, that data said to have been released by now. Now, prior to that publication, White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow said in an interview with Fox Business Network that he expected the figure would be very good, and our reporter there just said that. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump stated during a speech at an Illinois-based steel facility yesterday that he would be satisfied with economic growth of about 4% or above. Now, aside from the GDP data, consumer sentiment for July is due out at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Now, this week has been jam-packed with earnings, and it doesn't show signs of letting up today, with a whole host of businesses reporting prior to the opening bell. Now, out of the slew due to report, Obvious, Chevron, Colgate, Palmolive, ExxonMobil, Merck, Phillips 66, and Twitter will be watched intensely by investors. In Asia, shares closed mixed on Friday, with Australia climbing, while other major markets in the region turned in more measured performances as investors focused on trade headlines and upcoming economic events. The Nikkei 225 edged higher by 0.56% to close at a session high of 22.712 points. Now, the Bank of Japan's meeting next week is expected to be a focus point for investors. Elsewhere, South Korea's Kospi added 0.26%. In Australia, the S&P ASX 200 recorded more convincing gains of 0.89%. Our markets in China, however, lagged, gains seen in the region, with the Shanghai Composite closing lower by 0.3% and the Shenzhen Composite pulling back by 0.66%. Away from the markets, leaders of the BRICS bloc of emerging economies meeting in the wake of tariff threats by U.S. President Donald Trump signed a declaration supporting an open and inclusive multilateral trading system under World Trade Organization rules at their summit in South Africa. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa agreed at a three-day meeting to fight unilateralism and protectionism. The leaders said they recognize that the multilateral trading system is facing unprecedented challenges and that they underscore the importance of an open world economy. They called on all WTO members to abide by WTO rules. The meeting of BRICS leaders is the first since the U.S. administration launched a push to rebalance trade multilateralism that Trump has deemed unfair, that the United States once championed. In the meantime, South Africa's economy received another boost this week when Chinese President Xi Jinping announced a $14.7 billion investment for the country. Xi is in South Africa for the BRICS summit. The investment will be in the areas of infrastructure development, the green economy, agriculture, and energy. And South Africa's Naspers is considering listing some of its e-commerce ventures in Hong Kong or New York. That's according to its chief executive, as part of efforts to narrow the discount between its market value and that of its stake in Tencent. Founded more than 100 years ago in South Africa, Naspers has transformed itself from a newspaper publisher into Africa's biggest company, a $106 billion burn month with private equity-style investments in e-commerce platforms such as auction sites, classified and online retail. Naspers owes its hefty valuation to a 31% stake in Tencent, which is worth $154 billion, or roughly 40% for more than Naspers. The discount has prompted some investors to urge Van Dijk to find ways to narrow it. And finally, on global oil market, prices edged lower on Friday in quiet trading after 3 days of gains, but took support from Saudi Arabia halting crude transport through a key shipping lane falling U.S. inventories and easing trade tensions between Washington and Europe. Brent futures were down 5 cents at $74.49 a barrel after gaining 0.8% on Thursday. They are heading for a near 2% gain this week, the first weekly increase in 4. U.S. West Texas Intermediate futures were 5 cents lower at $69.56 after rising nearly 0.5% in the previous session. The contract is heading for a 1.3% weekly loss, a fourth week of declines. Saudi Arabia said on Thursday it was temporarily halting all shipments through the Red Sea shipping lane of Bab al-Mandeb after an attack by Yemen's Iran-allied Houthi movement. An estimated 4.8 million barrels per day of crude oil and refined products flowed through the Bab al-Mandeb Strait in 2016 towards Europe, the United States, and Asia, and that's according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. And that's a wrap on the program. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Chimeze Obi. You're welcome.